guys. Today I wanted to talk to you about harmonics. Now, harmonics are a useful tool we can use to get much higher frequencies out of the bass than would normally be allowed through fretted notes. Just as a sort of overview of what these actually are, when we play an open string, what we're not just hearing is that one single note, known as the fundamental frequency. That's the lowest pitch that note is producing. What a ringing string is actually producing is that fundamental frequency, and then lots and lots of what are called overtones. Now, these are lots of notes at much higher frequencies than that fundamental frequency that all sound at the same time when we play a string. And this all sort of sounds together, and we perceive that as one single note, but what we're actually hearing are loads and loads of different frequencies stacked on top of each other. And that's why we hear the string ringing rather than just producing like a dull tone frequency. And when we play these harmonics, what we're doing is essentially tapping into those overtones. Now, the way that we produce those are by finding what are called node points up and down the neck. Don't worry about too much about the terminology, but it's points up and down the neck where those frequencies sit on the string, essentially where the waveform is divided up into different sections. So you've got the overall wave form. If we take the 12th fret, for example, the harmonic sounding there is an octave up, so it's half the frequency, or double the frequency, rather. So at the halfway point of the neck is the point where the frequency doubles. Kind of makes sense, and it divides up equally along the neck there. So some of the harmonics that we can sound are at slightly odd points, but as a rough guide, the easiest ones to find tend to follow the fret markers on the neck. So there's one at the 4th fret, but also the 5th, 7th, 9th and 12th are your most prominent harmonics to find on an open string. So the way we sound these, I mentioned this briefly when we were talking about dead notes the other day. If you hold down several fingers on a string and pluck, you get a dead note. But if you put your finger on the string and don't push down on one of these node points, then you ring out a harmonic. That takes a little bit of getting used to, but just find some of those open string nodes and have a go. Now these can be like more emphasized if you pluck like further back towards the bridge, and also if you isolate, if you've got a bridge pickup, if you turn down the middle pickup and just isolate that pickup, you can really bring out those harmonics. So there's sort of charts and everything on the web where you can find out what all the notes are and how they break down and how they relate to the open string. And it takes a bit of getting used to. Personally, I quite like the harmonics that are available when I'm playing in the key of G, which I was doing in the intro there, because you've got some nice chords that you can add to the basic root notes. So that's sort of an overview of natural harmonics. Now what can be interesting as well is when we get into playing false harmonics. Now these are kind of similar to when guitar players play pinch harmonics with their pick. You get a very high squeal sound out of it. Now it's basically the same principle, but we use a slightly different technique on the bass. Well, you can use the pinch technique, but it's not quite as effective. The principle is those where we're talking about the node points of an open string, they equally divide the neck up, the string up, along the length of it. Now, if we play a fretted note, say the 3rd fret here, so we're playing an A sharp or B flat, those node points now shift. They become slightly smaller and shift up the neck. But fortunately, the node points move up sort of fairly equally. So our 3rd fret here, where the 12th fret would be, is now the 15th fret, 1 octave up. The 1 octave point stays the same as we play up the neck. So that now becomes about here, on the 15th fret. Obviously now we've got a bit problem that we can't fret the note up here. So what I like to do is use my thumb, rest it across that point, and then pluck behind it. You'll hopefully be able to hear that sort of harmonic coming out. So what we're doing there is sort of finding those false node points. Now we're fretting here, we're changing the point where the open string would have been, so the node points move, and it's a case of finding where those sit. There's quite a prominent one there. And that's the main point of the false harmonics, is that we're not stuck with just what the natural harmonics can give us on the neck. We can actually move. We can move which point we're playing, and we can actually use the same, essentially the same harmonic, whatever point that is, on fretted notes, so we can change the harmonic frequency we can play. So it's something to experiment around with. It takes a little while to find out where the natural points to play are, get used to playing them, but you can add sort of a really nice layer to bass lines by putting these in. As examples to listen to on recordings, I would definitely point you towards listening to a player called Jaco Pastorius. Now, he had played a lot of jazz, so if it's not really your thing, then don't worry about getting into it or anything, but I would suggest looking up a song called Portrait of Tracy, which is a fantastic example of mostly natural harmonics. There are a few false harmonics thrown in there, but just an amazing masterclass in using natural harmonics on the neck. Also, a band called Weather Report, which he played in, there's a song called Birdland, where the intro is played all... there's a synth intro, but then the main riff in it is played all with false harmonics on the bass. And it just really shows you what you can get out of the instrument if you really work on these. So it's something to play around with again. Hopefully enjoy. I make use of these just sort of subtly, but it's nice to have available to you.